This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. A lot of people have been asking me to cover this net neutrality crap that is going on, where people are fearful that the internet's going to become censored and they're going to control free speech. Well, as those of you who follow this channel know, and me as living proof already knows, net neutrality does not exist. It's already gone. Free speech is already gone. Just ask channels such as mine and many others out there who speak the truth, who speak against this so-called republic that we live in, who have had their videos taken down, channels taken down, all of the stuff that they've worked to create here on YouTube and on other platforms, and they're deleted like vanishing like a fart in the wind overnight, to never be seen from again, some of these people. All because we're talking about the truth and we're questioning what we're told. So people are very fearful that the First Amendment of the internet, which guarantees free speech, is equal on the network of networks, will be gone. Well, it's already gone. It's already gone. So no matter what the outcome is of this movement, they're going to get what they want. Even if people overwhelmingly come out and say, well, we want to stop them from overturning this. They want to stop Trump's FCC, the repeals of this net neutrality, because they're fearful that the elites are going to be controlling of what narrative is playing out on the internet. Well, they already do. They already do. So whether they come forward and say the people have won in this war and that they're going to back off and the Trump administration is not going to do anything that would affect net equality, that'll just be part of the show and part of the narrative. They'll never go on the mainstream media and talk about channels like mine who question just the smallest things, right? I mean, I'm questioning everything. Most channels, in this genre are questioning everything. But it's amazing that things like talking about transgenderism and sending children to these camps, which is child abuse, and that these channels that promote that stuff are all safe and they're allowed to push that. But if you question that, you're not. Let alone, people who are questioning these false flag events that occur, these hoaxes that occur, who are, pretty much debunking things like Las Vegas and the timeline that they give and the narrative that they give, and then they come back and they just completely drop the entire story because people out there are now playing the role of detectives because there's no such thing as detectives. It's almost like it's backfired in their faces. All these shows like CSI that they constantly pump out for fear, right? That's the mind control behind all those shows, CSI and all those types of things, to make you look next door like your neighbor is a mass murderer and all that stuff. But I think it's backfired in a sense because I think people have learned, and people themselves are starting to think in this way of questioning things, looking into things, and being their own detectives because they have the internet at the palm of their hands. And they never expected that from a nation of zombies, because what we have is the extreme, which is where we are, where we're awake, where we're very smart, where we're operating on a conscious level, and then you have the dumbest of the dumb. There's really not many in the middle. You have one extreme or the other. The people who are asleep are the dumbest of the dumb. These are the people who are walking around on their phones, walking into walls, who don't even know how to communicate without their phone. If you took their phone and threw it in a pool of water, well, I guess phones are now apparently waterproof, but all right, so you took their phone and you snapped it over your knee, their heads would explode, and they probably would stab you with a knife or shoot you with a gun because they're so plugged in and so under the thumb of the elite. So you have one extreme or the other, but for people like us, free speech doesn't exist because we question these things. And what they want to do with this, this net equality thing that they're pushing, one way or the other, they're going to get what they want because they already have it in place. So they can come out and they could say, well, it's been blocked, the people have spoken, and Donald Trump is going to keep the internet the way it is, and people are going to have equality. No one's ever going to hear stories about channels like mine who aren't allowed to speak and others. And I'm not saying feel bad for me because I can't talk about certain issues. But the point is that this is how they deceive people, right? And they come out with this stuff and they talk about how, like this article says, it says, it guarantees that speech is equal on the network of networks, whether the words come from Walmart, the corporate behemoth that identifies as the largest retailer in the world, or Walmart Watch, the movement that seeks to hold Walmart fully accountable for its impact on communities, America's workforce, the retail sector, the environment, and the economy. This net equality protections assure that the essential democratic discourse on the World Wide Web cannot be bartered off to the highest bidders of a billionaire class that dominates the political debate on so many other media platforms. Citizens love net equality. The overwhelming majority of people who wrote unique comments to the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission, want the FCC to keep its current net neutrality rules and classifications of ISPs as common carriers under Title II of the Communications Act. How overwhelming? They said 98.5% of unique net neutrality comments oppose, the plan that's in place. The media monopolists of the telecommunications industry hate net neutrality. They have worked for years to overturn guarantees of an open internet because those guarantees get in their way of their profiteering. If net neutrality is eliminated, they will restructure how the internet works, creating information superhighways for corporate and political elites and digital dirt roads for those who cannot afford the corporate tolls. No one will be surprised to learn which side Trump's FCC has chosen, blah, blah, blah. They go on to just play off of this narrative of fear of that this massive control of the narrative on the internet is going to be controlled by the elites when it already pretty much is. And it's only going to get worse anyway, whether this is passed or not. Because if these people out there who are sound asleep don't hear it on the mainstream media, they don't know what's going on, right? There's people out there who follow my channel who hate me, right? They hate everything I say, everything I stand for. There's a lot of Satanists who follow it, right? Just to troll it and do all that stuff, right? But if they really were people of character or integrity who, stand with Antifa and all this stuff, then they would sit there and they go, well, I hate this guy. I hate a call for an uprising. I hate what he stands for. I think he's obnoxious. I think he's a jerk. That's fine. Say all that stuff. But they can't sit there and say, but he shouldn't be allowed to speak. Because then it makes them hypocrites. They can speak about their, love and worship of Baphomet, and I can't speak about my love of Jesus Christ. I can't speak about the things that I think are wrong, which might be the opposite of their opinion. No, that's completely wrong. But people don't realize that that's exactly what is going on. You see, all these people who are going along with the system, who are going along with this narrative, they don't want you to question it whatsoever. And anyone who questions it, it's not a matter to them of free speech. It's a matter of what they deem as hate speech. Because having an opposite opinion now isn't having an opposite opinion. It's hate speech. It's hateful and it's bigotry. And that is how they're going to try to eliminate Christianity. That's how they're going to try to get people to turn on us. They already are, right? We already see how people feel about Christians. And that's why I always say I don't get why so many Christians want to fight amongst each other and bicker about this or that. Well, that's because a lot of them are lukewarm Christians. But regardless of that, this is what is going on around us. And this net neutrality thing, it's already in place. It's already going on. So all this would just be their way of saying, hey, everybody, this is what we've done now. So then if somebody like me or anybody else out there comes forward and says, where's my right to free speech? They'll say, well, you can thank Donald Trump and this, internet neutrality thing because it's no longer neutral playing field and you no longer are able to talk about certain topics and they can decide what they want to push through. And, they can technically say it from that perspective, right? That this is now, a law and this is now the way it is. Whereas if this wasn't going on and people like me and others came forward and showed people and gave them proof that, look, they are taking away free speech. They're banning free speech without anything in place, right? Without saying, hey, we're wiping away the First Amendment. People will get mad. They get fired up and they go against it. They would. Whether they hate people like me or not, they'd still say, well, that's not fair because if I decide to come out and speak against something, I want to have the right to be able to have an opinion that's different than everybody else's, no matter what it might be. So this is the world that we're living in now. It's all psychological, right? Everything that they do is psychological. It's all about how they can, bid themselves and put themselves in the right positioning, right? Because they're positioning themselves to make sure that they're always protected, right? So it's a chess game where they're making sure that the queen is always protected. It's always got pawns in front of it. There's no way to get at it. Even if you try to come in from the side, if you try to come in from, an angle, they make sure that they're covered, They cover their angles because they control the game. So you're going to hear more about this stuff in the coming weeks. People are going to say, "Oh, we've got to do something about it." Of course, I believe this. This is garbage. That we should be allowed to say whatever we want. That the internet should be open for everyone. Of course, I believe that. And people want to go protest it and do that stuff. Go ahead. But I'm telling you, it's already done. It's already in place. It's already going on. And no matter what they end up saying after this, it doesn't matter. This is just for them to cover their rear end so that they can say, well, look, technically, you could blame Donald Trump. We've put this in place. You can't come at us and say that we're taking away your free speech because the internet isn't an open forum anymore for free speech. And this stuff is hate speech and blah, blah, blah. This is exactly what it's for, is to cover their behind. There is no open forum anymore on the internet. Let's be honest. It's not just going on YouTube. There are people who have had websites taken down, okay, have websites blocked out for speaking the truth on certain topics. They're always monitoring. They're always controlling. We know this stuff. This is in place for the masses out there so that the masses can get used to this, and they're not going to be in shock when someone comes along and goes, free speech doesn't exist on the internet. Because they'll go, oh, yeah, I heard about that thing. But if this wasn't going on, if they weren't, talking about this net neutrality thing, and people like me came out and others, and we started just saying, look, how come I can't question an adult sending a 4-year-old to a tranny camp and without it being called hate speech, without me saying and wishing harm or anything on anyone? All I'm saying is that that it's wrong, which I should be allowed to say. People will wake up from it. People will get mad because that's one of the things that people don't want to be to deal with or be told, is that they can't have free speech. People will fight for free speech, so they have to create stuff like this. They have to create illusions like hate speech, right? Because people just go, oh yeah, well that is mean. They don't realize what they're doing is they're slowly giving away their rights, right? They're slowly giving these things up little by little, and then at some point, they'll already have this in their head, these seeds planted about what's hate speech and what's not, and they won't realize that they were giving away their rights to the elites and giving away, and destroying and ripping up the Constitution. So that's what's going on in our world. It's just nonsense. I wanted to just rant about it without, getting into deep detail about it because it's part of their plan. It's like this. We already know that this hasn't been going on. This has been over a year now since all this crackdown on YouTube, but it's spread off of YouTube. It's other, everyone goes, well, go to these other mediums. They won't do anything. I know people who've gone to other mediums or other channels and they haven't been able to post their content. I know people who have websites who have their websites taken down, have videos removed from their websites. If they're talking about the Talmud and stuff like that, like they're wiping the internet clean. I talked about, how last year, if you search something that questions this specific event that happened, that a guy Adolf was supposedly behind, that Google will block the search results for anything that goes against it, anything that would question it. So this is what they're doing. They're keeping their narrative going. They're blocking questioning of these narratives, and they're using the zombies out there to help push this along by coming up with things like fake news, right? And the dangers of fake news, coming up with things about hate speech and how, we should go along with 7 million genders without anyone actually using their brain and going, all right, this is ridiculous. We have people identifying as, dragons out there, right? We have people identifying as lawnmowers. And people are just like, yeah, that's normal, because they don't realize how dumbed down they are. And this is 2017. It's only going to get worse from here, folks. No matter what happens with this, with this this net equality thing, whatever they want to call it, in the future, we know it's already going on now. This is just for the masses out there to begin their programming slowly, little by little, without realizing they're taking away free speech, but to have them program into thinking that this is okay and this is good because this is going to help unite everyone and this is going to help make a better world, a peaceful world with less hatred and less bigotry, because they don't have a clue what's going on. And like I said earlier, it's two extremes. There's us and there's them. There's those of us who are awake, whether you agree with everybody who's awake on certain subjects, it doesn't matter. We're all consciously thinking. We're all awake, and whether you're going down this side of the rabbit hole or that side, we're still critically thinking. We're aware. We're not walking around like zombies. And the other end of the sword, like I said, is the zombies who are completely oblivious. You can't get dumber. You can't have conversations with these people. They're so stupid. But in their mind, they're so prideful. They look at us and they go, "Oh, the crazy people." Little do they know, and they'll find out in due time, just how dumbed down and pathetic their lives have become and what they've become, because they've allowed the system to control their minds, and they've decided to live a life without questioning it because they love the system that the elites have given them, because it's the illusion of freedom that they crave, and the striving for fake dreams and fake goals and fake careers and wishes and all this stuff. And these people don't have a clue what's going on. Anyway, thanks for letting me rant. I just wanted to get that off my chest. Just be careful what you fall for with this kind of stuff, and the amount of time and effort you put into it. Because at the end of the day, your opinion doesn't matter to them. Your protest doesn't matter to them. Your boycott doesn't matter to them. Unless they feel something would cause a mass awakening, they don't care. And they're going to manipulate everybody into doing what they want. They're not going to force it on you with guns. They're going to force it on you with mind control. And that means that your people are willingly going to give this stuff up and go along with it, because they're going to think it's in their best interest, because they're under psychological warfare. Thank you again for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families.